All right, good morning, everyone. It's about 8:08. I think we have a ton of stuff to cover today, so we're going to get started. For those that signed up as having, expected to attend Animal Farm or attend WISPAmerica down in Dallas, it's unfortunate set of circumstances that has forced us to do this virtually. We love to be there in front of everybody and see everyone, but unfortunately, it's better this way for everyone involved, and we're glad we can still get some of this information out to you guys. We have a contingent of folks online um, from Cambium, and actually this makes it easier for others to participate. So we're excited to be able to do this for everybody and have all the right folks online that we can help answer questions and things. We'll have plenty of time at the end. This also kind of frees us from some of the time constraints that we were working under as well. So welcome everyone to the Cambium Networks Animal Farm session. Again, we're going to go through a lot of material. There's going to be a lot here. The good news also is that this information will be recorded. This webinar is being recorded. It will be posted on our forum. If not every slide, most of the slides. And we'll make sure that the information is available and we can continue the conversation there should you be listening to this recorded and have additional questions or have not had a chance to get your questions answered during the live broadcast. So again, let's do some things at the beginning here. Animal Farm. Why do we call it Animal Farm? What is that? And who is this guy? So we have a long history of participation in this industry, way back to the Motorola days, where this guy, Chuck McCown, he kind of founded a trade show, if you will, an organizational trade show to support the WISPs, and he called it Animal Farm, and he held it out in Salt Lake City. We attended many years with him. It was a great show, and it kind of cut through all the marketing crap and really got us to our engineering team, our product teams, very close to the end users, you guys, the service providers. And it's very beneficial to have been able to continue this sort of dialogue with the customers directly, rather than having to go through all the marketing spiels and trying to sell you on everything, kind of cutting the sales guys out of things for at least a brief period. So I'd like to thank Chuck and give him all credit where credit is due, and make sure that everyone sees that he's the guy. He is the guy that started this, and we'll continue the tradition. So welcome to Animal Farm. Again, by way of introduction, my name is Matt Mangriotis. I'm a product manager with Cambium. I represent the point-to-multipoint series, including our CBRS portfolio. And we'll talk a little bit about where we're headed in the future at the end there. But we'll go through quite a bit of different stuff. We have a lot of different speakers. And so we'll get going. We're going to start with 60 gig, and then I'll talk through the PMP portfolio, including cnRanger, our LTE product portfolio. Bruce is going to cover ePMP. Then we have a guest on to talk through some of his experiences with CN Heat. That'll be pretty exciting. We'll cover the CN Pilot Xeris portfolio, including our switching products with CN Matrix. And then Azif is going to cover some of the new stuff that's been unveiled with Maestro, which is really exciting stuff because it touches all of the products. And then I'll wrap it up again with a look into the future. And then we'll have plenty of time, as I mentioned, for Q&A. So without further ado, let me introduce Alan. And Alan's going to talk about our 60 gig solution. Are you there, Alan?
Thanks, Matt. Hey, everybody. Good morning. So let's talk about 60 gigahertz. This is a new product line we're going to introduce this year. So what is a 60 gigahertz solution? It's a V-band radio. We're using the 60 gigahertz. We covers from 57 to 66 gigahertz. And in US, this is an unlicensed band. In some other country, it could be an unlicensed or light licensed spectrum. So the solution is just like all other, ePMP, PMP 450 we have. The product is software defined, and we can support point-to-multipoint. We can also support point-to-point configuration. But in addition, on 60 gigahertz, we support mesh. So with the mesh, it gives us a high scalability, and when the network is deployed, because we form a mesh distribution layer. So the network is self-healing and also provide very high network availability. Since we're using 60 gigahertz, we have a much wider spectrum available for us, and every channel size is 2.16 gigahertz. So this enables us to running very high capacity, and per sector we're running at a maximum 10 gig throughput. So this really gives us a capacity we can provide, compete with fiber or deliver fiber-like connectivity for customers in urban, in suburban, or in the rural area. The product is 11AY based, and actually AY is not finalized yet. So currently we're using a pre-AY, pre-802.11ay chipset, but we did review the latest draft of the 11AY standard, and we believe unless there is, with assuming there is no dramatic change, we believe with the software upgrade, the current platform will be fully migration to standard 11AY in future. The last one is it's very, we embedded the telegraph technology from Facebook that enable us to offer this mesh function and other things together in the telegraph. And we're using the OpenR protocol to support mesh, which has been proven very efficient in the mesh topology. And since we're using the 60 gigahertz, people know at the 60 gigahertz, the beam width is pretty narrow. There is a challenge about the alignment. So we're using beamforming technology. This will really ease the concern or the difficult for installation and configuration, so people will be much easier to install. And also the good news for 60 gigahertz is the antenna size is much smaller, so it convert overall the radio size become much smaller. So we have a very compact size design and make everything far simple and easy. So let's flip. Next page. So when we look at the applications, there are all kinds of applications we can use with the 60 gigahertz. A big portion is offer the high-speed fixed wireless access. So we can serve the dense rural area or suburban area, or we can serve the urban market. For many of our WISP customers, I mean, this is technology, offer you a new market, or the market in the past, when people need a very high capacity, like over 100 gig or 100 meg or up to a gig. This is not traditionally wireless service provider provide, but with 60 gigahertz, we will be able to do that. This can also be used like a small cell backhaul for the telco market. And also we can do this because we offer a 10, a gigabits level, a distribution layer for all the backhauls capacities. So we can use this one to backhaul outdoor Wi-Fi. We can backdoor the industrial IoT. We can also backhaul the video surveillance. We can backhaul the MicroPoP for ePMP or PMP 450. You can use this technology not only to backhaul, you can also use this one for a small cell concept. Basically, we can using 5 gigahertz to do the coverage and using 60 gigahertz as the hotspot to offset the traffic from the existing 5 gigahertz network. There are products today in the market on 60 gigahertz. Many of them are 11AD based. Some of them are private protocol. Generally speaking, the private protocol is more expensive. AD is much cost effective, but there are significant feature limitation on the AD. The channel size, they only support channel 2 and channel 3. Unfortunately, channel 2 and channel 3 are the worst performance channel given the oxygen absorption on 60 gigahertz. And also, it compares AY. You can see we support channel 1, channel 4. On AY, we also support channel bonding, so we can support adjacent channel with a wider channel to deliver higher capacity. So we will be able to deliver 10 gigabits per sector or per link. And also the CPE to AP ratio increased from 8 to 15 on AY standard. So those are, almost double the performance. But more importantly, when we talk about deployment, the AY, we support TDMA channel access with TDD synchronization. This enables us to reuse the spectrum, reuse the channels, and much better efficient using the spectrum compared with the collision detection on the CSMA, which is less efficient when the network starts to grow. And also, in addition, is mesh. With mesh, we will be able to provide much higher network availability and much flexible and scalable when the network grow. So those are significant benefit brought by AY. So for that reason, and Cambium has decided we're gonna introduce our first 60 GHz product based on AY standard. There are three platform or product we're gonna introduce on AY or as our first in the first release. The V5000, we call this distribution nodes, or you can consider this one is really equal to the AP access point. And we have 200 product is V1000 and V3000. They are the client nodes or like the subscriber modules were used on the PMP, like the PMP product. So the V5000 is a single radio, but we have two sectors covered. So each sector covers 140 degree. So with a single V5000, we will be able to cover 280 degree. And that is the with beamforming. And for vertical side, or we covers 50 degree for beamforming. Each sector covers 10 gig. And since every sector we can support up to 15 devices, so totally the single V5000 we can support 30 devices to be connected. Out of 30, up to 4 can be the other distribution nodes, so we can form a mesh layer at the distribution layer. From the interface wise, we have 3 port on the V5000. We have a 10 gig copper in with PoE. We also have one auxiliary port with PoE out. This is a 1 gig port. So we can use this port to power an Wi-Fi device or a PMP device or some other whatever device you need. That PoE out is 802.380. So you can we provide 25 watts to power any radio or devices you want to connect it. Then we have a SIP plus port, so you can plug in the fiber to feed the V5000. For V1000, we have the beamforming for 70 degree for horizontal and 50 degree for vertical. And the interface, the air interface can support much higher capacity, but we capped for the user interface is 1 gig copper, so we can support up to 1 gig per direction on the V1000. The typical distance between V1000 to V5000 is about 200 meters. With V3000, we will be able to offer much longer range in the PMP configuration, so we can support 500 meters compared to V1000. In addition, because we're using a 42 dBi antenna, so we can also use this one to reach longer range point-to-point configuration. When we do the point-to-point, we can support up to 800 meters or 1,000 meters. This is actually we're using the region K with 4.9 link availability. If you're in other region or you're using other channels, like in channel 4, you could be support a bit longer range because channel 4 is more close to E-band. Interface are the same, like the V5000. Even with a reflector, we still support a limited beamforming capability, and we can support 4 degree for horizontal and 2 degree for vertical. So let's next page. So this really shows how those devices will be sort of like connected. You can see because we have the two-sector DN V5000 in the middle, and every sector we connect 15 devices, and then we can form the mesh. Next slide. I think this is the last one. So basically, this is a picture for one of the network we're designing, and you can see the bigger one are the V5000, shows two sectors, and the smaller one, the blue dot, they're the CN devices, provide the residential access or outdoor Wi-Fi coverage. You can see majority of the site, almost all sites, we only need a single radio on the tower. That is one of the key thing we want to focus on is we want to get rid of the site router. We don't want to have multiple radios, like 3 or 4 radios on a pole, and then you need a site router in order to get the data interchange between those sectors, and then you have 3 or 4 PoE, cables. It's become very messy. Power consumption go higher. So we designed this radio. The V5000 is only 35 watts, and we can do single radio per pole for most of the deployment. If you look at the picture here, in many cases, when we go to all different place, literally you only we provide this coverage. Although we do have about 80-degree behind, there's no coverage, but due to your installation for a pole mount, by the nature your mounting way, the way how you mount the radio, and also by nature there is there is a lot of overlap between the DN coverage, because you need to form the mesh between the DN to DN. So actually with that, it's provide a pretty good balance, for the numbers of radio you need on the pole, and also the coverage you need for the network. So this gives us a pretty confidence. This works very well for all the designs we have involved so far. So in addition, this also shows we're not only provide the equipment, we are providing the planning tool using cnHeat, or we are using the cnRanger. We're going to using cnRanger provide the mobile app for installation, and also we're gonna have the cnMaestro to provide overall network management. Together with the cnMaestro, there is a cloud controller to support mesh, and this gives us the overall end-to-end solution from Cambium. All right, I think that's all I have.
So Alan, thanks very
Yes.
much. We do have a couple of questions that maybe we're willing to answer, maybe not, but I'll pose them to you anyway. When is this product coming and how much will it cost?
Okay, so good question. So we are the product will come. I think right now we're looking for the early Q3, given there is a lot of impact for the coronavirus. So we have 3 products we mentioned earlier. We have the V5000. The list price, the preliminary list price is $999. The V1000 list price will be $199, and the V3000 list price will be $599. Given the, as I said, there is we all see this almost daily change for coronavirus thing. So that could impact the final delivery date. We keep closely monitor the situation, and we will keep the customers and channel partners updated with if there's any change associated with the product delivery.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Alan. Moving on to now the PMP portfolio, I'll talk for a few minutes. And if you have any further questions on the 60 gig product, keep them coming in the chat, in the question box, and we'll get to them at the end. But again, Matt Mangriotis, I manage the PMP portfolio as well as cnRanger. I'd like to start off with the presentation by talking a little bit about a real world example of where we have a really pretty cool story here in Italy specifically, and never more so than now. This customer is our largest PMP 450 customer in the world, doing fixed wireless exclusively. And they first appeared on the Netflix, which may be less important now, but the Netflix speed index report for the country. They first appeared at number 6 in 2017, in May of 2017, as the premier wireless company. You'll see those icons on the right side of the chart showing the only ones that are wireless are Linkem and Iolo. And since then, they've moved up in the rankings. They are the number 1 speed index for all of Italy, and they have been for most of last year, and including the latest and greatest from this past month. They're leading the country in terms of the ability to provide bandwidth to their end users. Historically, they've been kind of a, in the evening time period when everyone comes home from work, their traffic spikes and they see this crazy peak time where this measurement takes place. But most recently, I am going to point out here that they've seen a spike in network traffic of about 60% due to this containment effort that's going on in Italy, where they're keeping everyone at home. So everyone is working from home, everyone's shut in, and this is no longer a peak hours in the evening kind of situation. Things have changed with their traffic patterns, and we're getting a lot of feedback that the network is holding up, even with this crazy increase in traffic. And we're noticing that the uplink is a significant portion of that traffic. So now that people are working from home and using cloud-based applications and things like that, the uplink becomes much more heavily taxed. And the good news for folks that use Cambium is that our systems can handle such things. If you start thinking about what LTE does and all the things that the mobile standards have excelled at, is almost always invariably in the downlink. And the nice thing about the purpose-built fixed wireless solutions that Cambium provides is that we're very flexible. And if it's necessary to change that duty cycle, that's easily done. And we can support much more bandwidth and much more efficiency in the uplink. So that's a pretty good story going on here as far as network resilience for our single largest customer in the world. Again, they have close to 500,000 subscribers in Italy, and the network is holding up pretty well. So I just wanted to point out that while Netflix, yeah, that's the key message here is they're the number 1 provider speed index in the country. Their network is holding up under these strenuous times to provide their customers with the needed connectivity to help them be able to live their life even in quarantine. So 450, you guys have seen this slide before. It's nothing new. But for those that haven't, I do want to point out that 450 platform is our flagship point-to-multipoint platform, capable of over 1 gig per sector in certain situations. We continuously evolve the platform because it is software defined. It's pretty impressive. It's all done on an FPGA. It's purpose-built fixed wireless from the ground up, providing extreme site capacity, highest spectral efficiency we've seen in the industry. We utilize that GPS synchronization capabilities to be able to reuse frequencies back to back, and that further enhance the spectral efficiency. And of course, we're continually evolving the platform, expanding, bringing new products, all that kind of stuff. We launched or released a solution paper a couple of years ago, but it's still very pertinent in that it explains all of the benefits and technology and how those things get accomplished in our cnMedusa product. This is the 450M access point that provides multi-user MIMO capabilities. It's a really unmatched performance in the industry. Really, this is the technology that's brought this platform to the forefront for especially high density and high capacity situations that are required. Some of the new things in the platform that have recently been introduced are the 3 gigahertz 450B. We have launched it. We have started shipping. We've shipped approximately 4,600 units last week. So they will be getting to your distributors this week. You will start seeing these things. I know there's a lot of them on back order, and I know that folks are waiting for them. I got confirmation this morning, as a matter of fact, that we're catching up to demand as of this week. So we should be shipping those from the factory in Mexico as of this week. Things are moving, things are happening in the supply chain. We're not stalled, we're not delayed, and we're catching up to demand on this product in particular very soon here. It is CBRS approved, meaning Part 96 grant is issued for this product. We will do a permissive change, they call it, to get what they call the CPE, CBSD approvals. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the CBRS section. But yes, we're good to go with 3 gig 450B and excited to have it out there. The pictures got a little hosed up here, so don't mind this. And I would tell you to stop by the booth and look at the products when if we were in Dallas. However, I'll share some additional pictures in the forum post when we post these things, and I'll fix the slide before it gets posted. These products look pretty cool. They don't look like a big box. So bear with me on that. But what I have coming out here is the MicroPoP for 450. It's basically a low cost, if you will, a $9.99 MSRP access point or sector, and it comes in both Omni or sector form factors. And it's coming out in June. We were impacted a little bit on some of the delays of the antenna hardware that's coming out of China. So it's gotten shifted out a little bit. But the really cool thing about this is it's in the Omni, really nice pattern. It's a hole filler for your network. If you can't reach up to 20 customers, the limitations of these guys is a 2-mile range and up to 20 SMs connected at any given time. Again, the Omni has a great pattern, very flat pattern all the way around, 360-degree coverage, 9 dBi. The sector is a 13 dBi gain, with a high front-to-back ratio to allow back-to-back reuse, even in these small sectors if needed. PoE inputs, unlike the SMs that are 30-volt inputs, or canopy-style inputs, these are PoE. And that's basically it. So again, where your network can't be serviced or is financially unsound to service them with a standard AP, which costs almost 3 times as much at a minimum, these guys can be put in and service those last bunch of customers to get around an obstacle or some foliage, whatever it is. But we're excited to get this out the door and have the ability to fill in these holes. So let's move to CBRS a little bit. I won't spend a lot of time explaining what it is. It's upon us. Things are happening in the band. We're getting additional spectrum, but it comes in a tiered use model, meaning there are users that have higher priority than you. And those users are the incumbents, which is the Department of Defense radars, the Aegis class radars that are on the coastlines and the aircraft carriers. Those will always take precedence. And there's sensing stations for those guys. Fixed satellite earth stations are also keep out areas. And so there are some incumbents out there. Priority access licenses, I won't spend a lot of time on that today. If you want more information, go to FCC, do a Google search for FCC Auction 105. You'll find tons of information about that. That's upcoming in June. And I think within a couple of weeks, you need to have your applications started for that. So if you're interested in filing or auction bidding for PALs, you got to get going on that. Don't miss your chance if you're interested in that. That's on a county basis. Up to 7 10 megahertz channels will be auctioned per county. There are minimum bids established. All that stuff is out there. Please go and look, and don't miss your chance if you're interested in bidding for PALs. And then the rest of us are going to be using general authorized access. This will be at least 80 megahertz up to 150 megahertz of spectrum in 10 megahertz channels. And it's established in the US as band 48 for TD-LTE and for our equipment as well. Now, what are we doing? What is Cambium doing with CBRS? This is a pretty important slide. We can spend a couple minutes on this and then we can answer questions on this as well. I want to say before I get started on this, tomorrow morning, 8:30, we are having another webinar, specifically on the topic of getting signed up and getting going with CBRS. We will walk through how you do that. We are ready to go. As of today, I'd like to thank my team and everyone at Cambium. As of today, we are releasing, or have released already, the software that's capable, release 16.2 officially, and cnMaestro versions, both cloud and on-premises, that are able to handle CBRS officially. So we are starting to go today. We're offering the choice of SaaS. So in order to use CBRS, you have to engage with a SaaS, and with Cambium, you do that through us. So you don't engage directly with the SaaS administrator. You're engaging with Cambium, and Cambium provides the domain proxy to make that communication. You can choose today Federated Wireless or Google. We will add CommScope at some point in the future. It's looking like in the Q3 or Q4 timeframe. But right now you can choose Federated or Google, your choice. The billing is the same, regardless of who you choose. We are charging $3 per SM per month, and you might say, well, that's a little bit more than what Google's saying that they charge directly to customers. And yes, it is. We are handling all of the domain proxy issues, including the digital device certification that's required. It eliminates the need for those certificates, as well as providing that management tool, which enables easy migration from Part 90 to Part 96. It enables batch processing of getting radios on board through cnMaestro. There's a lot of tools that surround this that really make things a little bit easier for you to get going in CBRS, and eliminates that need to negotiate or establish a second relationship with another SaaS. We're doing all that through us. So as I mentioned here, metering begins April 1st, which means any devices that are on board or online in CBRS for more than 48 hours, beginning April 1st, will be counted in April's month and be charged at $3. And the first invoices will start going out in May. So that's the plan of attack on CBRS for us. So again, you can continue to operate under Part 90. So if you're already out there doing 365 under Part 90, you can keep doing that until your license expires. Most licenses expire April 17th, coming right up in about a month. Now, Louis from WISPA yesterday, or Monday rather, reported that they're working on a waiver. He said, it's not a done deal, and don't make a big deal out of it beyond the community here, but they're working with the FCC to get a waiver in place, a 6-month waiver. However, we are ready. We are ready to support you in your endeavor to get compliant. So if you want to avoid all of the consternation, the lawyer fees, whatever it is that you required to file this waiver or get on board with a waiver, hop over. We're ready to support you today, and we will continue to be ready and work through any issues that we see. We have a fair number of you that are in attendance today that have experience with the beta program that we've been running for a while now, and I'd like you, if you so choose, to share those experiences with your fellow WISPs. We are working through bugs as they come up, and we feel that we're ready to go. And again, thanks to the team, and congratulations on getting this out the door. We're really excited to have CBRS in place. Moving on, I'm not going to go through the entire roadmap. However, we like to share this roadmap of future stuff. And I know some people are probably taking screenshots and that sort of thing. No problem. We will post this online, so feel free to refer to it later. But this is what things look like as of today. As I mentioned yesterday, today we got the CBRS full release online. It's out there. That also has an enablement for 4.9 on Medusa. So if anybody has access to 4.9, the public safety band, and can utilize that with their providers in usually municipalities and things, the Medusa can now do 4.9, and that's especially nice for video uplink and video surveillance applications. Big software release in June, bringing some cool stuff. Intermediate modulation modes to improve overall waterfall curves, improving PPS all around, adding full IPv6 support, as well as bringing up some of the security protocols to kind of standards these days, TLS 1.2 and that sort of thing. So really exciting stuff in the software. Then we have the release for the MicroPops. And then in September, we're looking at doing what we're calling a retro SM, which means bringing the widebandedness, meaning 4.9 to 5.9 in one radio, bringing the higher processing power of the 450B versus the old 450, but into the same form factor, meaning the same patch antenna, that you can simply replace that radio in an external reflector dish and off you go. Same power supply and everything, but bringing those new platform to the game. We'll talk about that more when we get a little closer, I think, later on in the year. But yeah, retro's coming, and then a connectorized version of both the MicroPoP access point as well as the 450B subscriber module. November is looking like another nice software release with some really cool features, including we're experimenting with and developing a nomadic mode for slow moving or rapid rearranging type of applications. We think about things like agriculture and some other mining operations that may be well suited for. We'll also work on getting multiple groupings per frame, which is a pretty neat aspect of getting things even more efficient using Medusa. And then you may notice in the yellow box, and yellow means we're still under evaluation, it's not developed yet, but in the yellow box, we're talking about carrier aggregation on 3 gigahertz Medusa. What that means, and that's pertinent really to the CBRS band. A lot of questions come up when folks compare us to LTE and say, hey, you know, if I have a 1 PAL and I need to use GAA and PAL, what happens to my network? Because those might not be contiguous. That is true. We don't expect that to be a huge issue for the upcoming year or two, but that may be true when things start filling out in CBRS, meaning you start running out of spectrum and you do have 1 PAL in an area. So we're developing carrier aggregation to be able to support that sort of scenario. That will require a new SM and a more expensive SM, because now we have to have basically 2 radios or at least 2 lineups in there to be able to support that aggregation. But we are planning to develop that, so that's in the plan. So moving on to cnRanger. And it says how many, I got a question about how many carriers in there. We're talking about 2 carrier aggregation. I don't think we'll be able to support 4 carrier aggregation with the hardware as it is today. What is cnRanger? So Ranger is our LTE-based solution. The reason we went down this path is a couple of reasons. Number one, folks look to industry standards for solutions, and especially folks that are driven by investors who don't really know that, hey, Cambium provides this world-class proprietary / software-defined solution that outperforms LTE in almost every way. Or they don't want to be tied to a single vendor or that sort of thing, and who's Cambium, how long are you going to be around, kind of thing. So we are developing and have developed an LTE solution that encompasses a lot of what we learned on the standard, the flat fixed wireless architecture, but bringing the protocol to bear to use for fixed wireless. So what we've done is combined all of the EPC functionality into the BBU. And that means that you have a single eNode B, base station that's encompassed by the BBU and remote radio head, and that has all of the EPC functionality in it. There's no need for an external core at all. And then that connects wirelessly to the SM, which provides that UE experience on the other end. Very simple, flat architecture, but utilizing LTE protocols. We've launched in 2.5. That's been out and has been available. It's a limited market in the US, especially now that Sprint has kind of redoubled their efforts to maximize use of that spectrum. I know they've bought a lot of that spectrum back from folks that had leased it, but you have opportunity to use 2.5 anywhere. Please see us. We'd be very interested in talking to you about how we can utilize Ranger in that band. We are going to release this in 3 gig in the CBRS band as well. That's coming in Q3. Was going to be Q2, but COVID had other ideas for it. So it's happening. There are impacts from that outbreak, and this is one of the casualties, if you will. It's pushed out to middle of Q3. So looking at the plan of intent for Ranger, we've shifted things around a bit. The next big release that's coming in April, it does contain what we call Ethernet bridging or layer 2 functionality for LTE. Very cool to have this in an LTE-like structure. That's an often asked for feature and something that's necessary to support some of these very much fixed networks that are used to using layer 2. A lot of the competition in LTE really does layer 3 and then has some kind of fake it out kind of tunneling protocols that simulate layer 2 but are sometimes often cumbersome and tough to use. So we're doing Ethernet bridging in a way that we believe makes it look and feel very much like our flat normal bridge architecture. So we're excited to get that software out as well. Then in July, we have a few more features being added to the platform, and in September is when we get the 3 gig stuff out there. And then we're adding more features as we go down the line. So in late 2021, mid 2021, we have the support for an 8x8 3 gigahertz radio, which is the hardware for the Medusa. So we do have a plan for Medusa hardware, meaning the 450M. If you combine it with the BBU, we can actually function as a LTE remote radio head that's capable of 8x8 and multi-user MIMO. So very exciting stuff going forward in the platform. And that is it for me. I know we're trying to stay on schedule and I'm not doing a very good job so far. I had a lot to cover and I will turn it over to Bruce to cover ePMP.
All right, great. Thanks, Matt. And thanks everybody for joining this morning. We're going to go through the updates on ePMP. We're hearing from a lot of WISPs around the world that the demand for their services is up. They're starting to see a lot of people telecommuting and working from home. And really we'll be focusing a lot today on how can a WISP support that and how can we help a WISP expand that network to either to add additional sectors, add additional capacity to particular end users, and do that in a cost-effective way with ePMP. So I always like to start with what makes ePMP different, what makes it unique in the market. It is 802.11ac Wave 2, which gives us that 4x4 MU-MIMO functionality, which gives you the ability to talk to 2 subscribers at precisely the same time, effectively doubling the capacity to about a gigabit per second in a sector. We also get some other benefits with Wave 2 with higher modulations, wider channels, but really a high performance platform. Of course, ePMP 3000 also leverages the legacy and heritage of the first and second generations of ePMP, so it brings across scalability with our synchronization capability, and then of course the hardware filtering on the 3000 and uplink beam steering. I think one thing that's really important these days is the ability to do compatibility and protect your investment. So with the ePMP 3000, we brought the ability to do backwards and forwards compatibility to bring your existing Force 180, Force 200 devices over to talk to an ePMP 3000. So customers can update their WISPs, can update their infrastructure and take advantage of that capacity without having to go and forklift upgrade all of the SMs. That's an important story, and it's going to continue when Wi-Fi 6 and 802.11ax products emerge in the ePMP space. That same compatibility story will be there. So if you're deploying Force 300 subscriber modules today, you can do that with confidence that they will be interoperable and work with next generation access points in the future. And that's something that is important to Cambium. It's important, we know it's important to our WISP customers, and something that we will continue to prioritize and urge you to look at that strategy, especially when you make an investment for the long term. And of course, we put 3-year hardware warranty on all of the ePMP hardware. Means you have peace of mind when you put a piece of hardware out into the network that that Cambium will stand behind it, both from the hardware standpoint as well as with software and technical support. So go ahead, Matt. I also wanted to highlight a real key difference, and I know Matt talked about MU-MIMO with the 450M platform. We'll talk about it here with the ePMP 3000. Multi-user MIMO is a major bet by Cambium Networks. You'll see, we've led the way even ahead of 5G deployments that take advantage of things like MU-MIMO. Here's a kind of a quick illustration on why it's so important. If I'm and here's kind of an example. If I'm a WISP, I'm trying to deploy 500 megabits per second in a sector. If I'm going to just use traditional MIMO, or I'm going to just try to attack this problem by increasing modulations to get up to 64 QAM by all my subscriber modules, I need a 27 dBi SNR. That, and if I compare that to using multi-user MIMO, I can get there with 16 QAM, which only needs 21 dBi of signal to noise ratio. So that 6 dB is significant, and I can take advantage of that additional budget using smaller antennas. I can put SMs further away from the tower, increasing my radius. So I have a lot of options there. If you go ahead to the next, if you build that out, Matt. If I try to do a gigabit per second, which, and you'll see some examples there of other approaches, I would either need to go to significantly higher orders of modulations, which just are not really feasible in the real world, or I can go with 64 QAM modulations and do multi-user MIMO with 27 dBi of signal noise ratio versus that 44, which is just not really feasible outside of in a real world wireless situation. So ultimately, multi-user MIMO gives you longer distances, more capacity, and smaller antennas. And you'll see that thread not only with the current platform, but then into the future as things like 11AX and Y6 become prevalent. Multi-user MIMO will win the day and give us again those longer distances and more capacity. So go ahead, Matt. And if you build this out, there's one more build. Oh, there you go. So if we look at the evolution of ePMP, going back 7 years now, 8 years, we started with the first gen that gave about 200 megabits per second and addressed the issue of self-interference by having a robust synchronization to eliminate or reduce self-interference. Then when we introduced the ePMP 2000 a few years ago, we added that uplink beam steering, we added hardware filtering, and that really helped with outside sources of interference. And then of course with the 3000, which I just talked about, we added multi-user MIMO, higher capacity, and brought that compatibility forward from the previous generation products. So as that capacity keeps going up, we hold that megabits per second per dollar down. And most importantly on this slide is you'll see that path to the future when 11AX products are introduced. We will support that compatibility story. So it's important to note that every Force 300 that you put in the field today will be compatible and interoperate with that future 11AX access point. So important to keep that in mind as you plan your network. Go ahead, Matt. So on the AP front, I just wanted to highlight that we did just recently introduce a MicroPoP. You see that over there on the right. It kind of complements the rest of the portfolio. We've got the 3000 and the 3000L, which is the 3000L is kind of the little brother of the 3000, does 2x2 MIMO. It is excellent for using a horn antenna to inject capacity. So again, if I'm looking to just add some capacity into a portion of my network, that's a great solution. Similarly with a MicroPoP, if I'm looking to perhaps light up a small subdivision, few homes, maybe a quarter or half a mile away, MicroPoP is a great way to inject some additional capacity. Go ahead. And when we look at the different access points, and this is where I'll kind of touch on the different options for expanding the network. So again, as you get these this additional demand that's hitting your network and that's ongoing, but we're seeing it specifically crunch in these days with additional capacity requirements. If you look at that 3000L, of course you can use a sector antenna, you can use a Omni. There's several 2x2 Omnis out there in the market, and then using this twist port adapter from RF Elements, you can use a horn antenna and very simply deploy that with a 3000L. With the 3000, you have similar options. You've got that 4x4 MU-MIMO sector. You've got a Omni antenna from KP Performance, which I'll mention here in a moment, and then a new option, which is a dual horn MU-MIMO, which I will also talk about briefly. So go ahead. So this is a product that we're pretty excited about. It's unique in the industry. It'll be available from your channel partners in May. It is a MU-MIMO dual horn antenna. This will give you the nice tight pattern of a horn antenna, but the performance benefits of multi-user MIMO. So you get all that capacity in a nice tight pattern. You can use this to expand the network, use this in some MicroPoP applications. It's about a 60-degree azimuth and gives you some nice gain. So really looking forward to this one. The feedback from customers who have been in beta trials has been very positive. And again, we expect to see that in the channel in early May. Go ahead. Another option is from one of our ecosystem partners, KP Performance. This is a true MU-MIMO Omni antenna. So you get that MU-MIMO performance. Again, strong feedback from customers who have been trying this out in the field. I know that this is available not from Cambium, but directly from KP. I know they have product in the channel today. So certainly we recommend you take a look at that. If you have, again, areas that you need to light up or add additional capacity, this becomes a good option. Okay. I like to use this just as an example of someone who's creatively using horn antennas. This is one of our good customers here, WISP customer here in Illinois near our headquarters, Evergent. Here you see an example of using horn antennas to add additional capacity, and this customer is actually delivering up to 150 megabit per second service plans. So really dramatically increasing the service that they can provide to end users. And they're doing this by laying in horn antennas side by side and injecting lots of capacity into a tight area. So you can see in the lower left, you've got a small town, small community in northern Illinois that can be addressed with relatively narrow beam width, but lots of capacity. So great option, and really the message you should take away from the ePMP story today is that we have lots of tools to allow you to expand the network in different ways and address end users effectively to give them lots and lots of capacity. So go ahead to the next slide. I'll just touch on this briefly. We have continued to expand the subscriber module base on the Force 300. I won't spend a lot of time on this slide other than to say, if you haven't seen some of the previous webinars, we've introduced some panel antennas like the Force 319 and the 19R. We have some small form factors for if you have some urban type environments that you're trying to do some short links. And of course, the Force 325, which is quite a popular product these days. I will highlight on the 19R, that is an IP67. It supports the 4.9 gigahertz public safety band, and it also supports 10 megahertz channels. This is really useful if you're going after a municipality or going after the ability to bid or respond to public safety tenders and that kind of thing. So go ahead to the next one. Yeah, this is the slide that kind of summarizes. If you're looking to expand your network, you've got demand coming in for higher capacity. Really, there's some questions you could ask. What's the density? What's the service plans? If I need the full boat, I need everything I can get. I want to throw as much capacity into an area as I can. Of course, you would go with 4 sectors of the 3,000, all using MU-MIMO sectors. Do I need to just light up coverage today and expand in the future? Well, in that case, maybe I can do some directional antennas first. I could start with the 3000L. I could start with the dual horn MU-MIMO. Maybe I could even start with an Omni. And you can see that there's 7 different ways you can expand the network, and we like to give you a lot of different options, and they're all at different relative price points. And when you combine this with the compatibility story to bring your existing network forward and even into the future, you have lots of ways to really minimize your total cost of ownership and your total investment as the network continues to expand and as the demand on your network continues to grow. So go ahead, Matt. On the roadmap, again, I won't go through this in a lot of detail. Dimitri and team are working hard on release 4.5. A new beta went up this week, and we expect with the last couple of issues to be addressed that this would go to commercial release in the next couple of weeks. So that's release 4.5. It brings in a number of new features, that beam steering antenna. I know a lot of people have asked questions about the 2.5 millisecond frame size, and you can see some of the other features on there as well. The next major release is 4.6. We'll be doing early access and beta trials in June. We hope to have that commercial release shortly thereafter, and you can see things like the flexible frame support and some of the other features that are coming down the road. Go ahead, Matt. So just to close, a couple of promotions to keep an eye on. If you are new to ePMP, if you have not deployed ePMP yet in your network, I invite you to take a look at this promotion. This is being jointly offered with 2 of our ecosystem partners, WISP.net and RF Elements. But with this promotion, a new WISP to ePMP can get at that low price you see on the screen there. You can get an access point, 12 Force 300 subscriber modules, a connectorized SM, and just as importantly, you get a CN Heat trial, which Dan will talk about here in a moment. You get an RF Elements twist port adapter and horn antenna, and you get 6 months of WISP.net billing and automation services. Finally, you get 2 hours of one-on-one consulting with someone from Sakid's team to assist you in getting up to speed with one of our system engineers and make sure that you're making the right choices as you build out that network. So this is available in North America only. You have to register on this link, but we really encourage you to take a look at it. There's a webinar this Thursday. If you're new to Cambium, new to ePMP, I invite you to join that webinar. We'll spend more time on this offer, and we'll talk a little bit about what some of those considerations are that you would take when starting out with ePMP. We'll also have WISP and RF Elements on that call to talk about their offerings as well. So I encourage you to take a look at that if you've been sort of thinking about kicking the tires on ePMP, thinking about getting started. This would be a great way to and a great time to do it with this promotion. Now go to the last slide there, Matt. And for those of you that are loyal WISP customers of Cambium, we really appreciate your business. If we have this promotion as well, if you have a friendly competitor down the road that's maybe using someone else's equipment, somebody that is maybe thinking about getting into the WISP business, we have this referral program. If you come to the link here, the Bring a Friend registration page, and that new WISP comes and signs up and participates in that promotion or becomes a Cambium WISP, then you can get some free equipment as well. So it's a great way for you to earn free access points, expand your network, and in the meantime, bring additional WISPs onto the ePMP platform, which when they synchronize that network, brings everyone's noise floor down and everyone plays well together. So really encourage you to take a look at that as well. That's it on ePMP. Appreciate your time, everybody, and I'll pass it on to whoever's up next.
Thanks, Bruce. Next, we're going to go to Dan Sullivan and Joe. And Joe's with Hiawatha Broadband. He's going to share his experience with CN Heat. And at this point, I think I'm going to try and make him presenter. And he's going to share with you his screen and kind of walk you through what he's done with CN Heat and some of the really cool stuff he's found and discovered with it. So let's try and do that. And bear with us for a moment while we do it. Looks good to me. I hope everyone can see that. And Joe,
Really
can
good.
we hear?
Yeah,
Yep.
man, I see it fine. Real quickly, hi everyone, I'm Dan Sullivan, and if you need to reach out to me, just use my email at daniel.sullivan@cambiumnetworks.com. What we have for you today is Joe Glenday of Hiawatha Broadband. They have a 98 site sea and heat system, and what Joe's going to do is he's going to share with you the benefits he's had with sea and heat, both just in general and now with COVID-19. And just as a one more reminder is everything that Joe shows you here is for our line of sight 3 gig and 5 gig. End of April, we'll be adding to this near line of sight and non-line of sight support for 3 gigahertz. So all you CBRS customers, we got you covered. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Joe so he can show you what he's been experiencing.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys giving me a chance to tell everyone how things have been working. So my name is Joe Glenday. I run the wireless department at Hiawatha, located in the Midwest. And one of the operational challenges we have in our area is we have some pretty, difficult terrain to deal with. As you can kind of see from my screenshot here, out west where we aren't, it's very flat. There's very few trees and things are pretty easy going. But as you get over to our areas, we're dealing with a lot of trees, a lot of hills, a lot of valleys, some really, really difficult terrain over here. So we, the last 5 years, we've been looking for something like this that could help increase our operational efficiencies. As it stands right now, before cnHeat, we were checking for signal at each home before we installed it. We're batting about 50% or so. Coverage area, is about 2 hours end to end. So we have a ton of windshield time when we're doing something like that. But we can't just schedule installs because customer's going to take a day off of work. You're going to waste time with that. They're going to be unhappy if you don't get service there. So we've been looking a long time for a solution like this to help us, with that. So I'll get into cnHeat specifically. A new site we installed over in, we're actually a little bit lower, where it's a town called Dodge down here. We have had, probably close to 80, 90 calls from this town down here. And there's just walls and barriers and trees, and it seemed almost impossible to get down there. So cnHeat specifically helped me identify a tower site that was nearby an adjacent tower up here up on the ridge that we had no idea it could see. We had no way of really telling. It didn't look like it would be able to hit it. But as soon as we fired up cnHeat, and you see the coverage map here, it still looks a little bit iffy, right? Until you zoom in, and with near pinpoint accuracy, it allowed us to find, a spot on this customer silo that we were able to backhaul down to and then relay a signal into the town that we were looking to get. So had we had cnHeat 5 years ago, we would probably have 100 more passings on our network already paying us for the service, because this helped guide us to expand to get down into that area. So you can turn on the heat map here. You see you have your sliders here. It's a cool new feature they added. This is height above clutter. So you could simulate, if I were to put up a tower, where would I get signal from that tower? Where could I place it? In this case, we're using an existing silo. So I used about 5 feet above the railing. And that's about the point where we started getting signal at the harvester silo there. So you click on your point, and you get a nice readout of which towers are closest, the distance, and also the signal you should be expecting and at what height you need to be at to get that signal. So even on the top of that silo, I needed 4 feet to get line of sight to that other backhaul point that we're coming from. So without cnHeat, we would have never found this, and we'd be missing 100 subs in an area where they only have access to HughesNet satellite right now. So we're doing very, very well in that area right now. So that was a specific example of how cnHeat very recently helped us expand our network. So the other benefit that you guys talk about more often is being able to determine if you can service a customer or not. So I'll find show all here. There are a lot of customers calling us this week. I'm sure people on the calls or on the call listening here, you're probably getting swamped too by this. But after this COVID virus started spreading, employees are more and more working from home. They're finding their DSL isn't adequate for what they need. So we had more calls in the last 2 days than we typically get in a month. So luckily last week Dan came through and got our 93 site cnHeat program deployed, and I'm getting before noon I think I had 30 calls in, and I'm here approving them from the office. We're not sending anyone out, no windshield time. I'm able to approve immediately if customers can get service. Here's this person actually did call in yesterday, and I actually went on site just to verify, and everything cnHeat said was spot on, down to about a 3-foot radius, which is what I think it's based upon, is about 1 meter LiDAR data that they have. So we're saving tons of windshield time. I have approved or denied 40 or 50 people that have called in the last 2 days without having to head to a single site. So far we verified at least 50 or 60 sites, and we have yet to find an error with cnHeat in some of the coverages it's showing. It's been spot on for us for about 50 confirmed site specs so far. So that's cool. And the sliders here, you can dictate, I think this is set to about 71. You can set a filter here. So if you only want to, if you have a very noisy environment, you could maybe set that to 63. And then you're only going to get the coverage area of, what's proposed at about 63 or 65. So you can also switch views. This customer was an easy one to hook up, but you could switch views to a height above clutter view instead of signal strength view, and you can sort of kind of get the hot spots on their property. The darker the areas, the higher they are, the more signal you could get. You could also use this to find spots to put a tower, or we're CLEC, so we could actually set a utility pole in the right of way if we needed to, and we could sort of pick the best spot to do that. Once this loads up here, my computer's a little slow. So we'll just hide all there. But yeah, that's been our experience with cnHeat. I cannot stress how lucky we are that we ordered it when we did, so we can handle this large influx of calls from the COVID virus. Everybody's home, everybody's working from home, our networks are all getting slammed. So we're working on some capacity things, and I have my guys up on the towers. We're expanding, we're growing, instead of sitting behind a windshield checking for signal at customers' homes. When the customer calls in, our customer service reps can actually, approve or deny a customer. So I don't even have to see it anymore. They type the address in up here, and they're approving them on the call. No more customers waiting a week or 2 weeks for us to get out there. Or right now, it would honestly probably take us a month to get out to all these site specs and checking for signal. So the operational efficiency that cnHeat is allowing us to operate with is nothing short of astounding, and I cannot recommend it enough.
Thanks very much, Joe. Appreciate
I
the testimonial.
had another question for
Dan,
you,
yeah.
Joe, real quick. Tell me about the different types of towers do you use? I'm sure it's all Cambium, but maybe you use something else.
Yeah, so that's something to touch on. Right now, we do have some Cambium in our network, but the overwhelming majority of it as of now is actually Ubiquiti AirMax. So we're getting things swapped over to Cambium, but as of right now, this is vendor agnostic. You can have you could Radwin, Mimosa, Ubiquiti. You could have any product in your network and still use cnHeat because it's it's vendor agnostic. It's just 5 gigahertz propagation and soon to be 3. So it's really something. You don't have to be a Cambium user, to use cnHeat. You could have any 5 gigahertz product on the market, and yeah, you can use cnHeat. So right now we're Ubiquiti. We're looking to do maybe some adjustments this year with that, but yeah, it works with everything.
Thanks, Joe. Really appreciate your help here. And if anybody just need a reminder, you can just reach out to me at daniel.sullivan@cambiumnetworks.com, and be able to answer your questions and help you out. Thanks, Matt.
No worries. Thanks, Joe and Dan. And we'll move real quickly here over to Darren Hermans, who's going to talk about the Wi-Fi stuff. Darren?
Thank you, Matt, and thank you all for joining. I hope I can speak clearly here. And so I am one of those people who are working at home, Dan, and producing lots of upstream and downstream bandwidth here. Myself and all my neighbors, everybody in California is really intensely affected by this new virus. So we're going to talk first about the home router portfolio. This is the portfolio that's of direct interest to most of our service provider customers. So we'll give you a little update on where we're at in terms of the overall portfolio from Cambium. Of course, the R190 series, R200, those are still 11N technologies, 2.4 gigahertz. And so at the top there in gray, that technology is rapidly needs to be replaced. It's reached the end of its useful life as a technology. Cambium continues to sell and support those products, and will continue to do so until we can transition people to better technology. But particularly as we consider the importance of these networks, we used to talk about mission critical networks, and we used to talk about that term as an enterprise, you know, a business, a logistics warehouse, a retail store, having mission critical networks. But really, as we're seeing in these past few weeks, Wi-Fi is the mission critical network, no matter where it's installed. And they could be, and that was no better emphasized than what Joe just showed us in terms of the users in his area and their usage rate, and what Matt showed us with what's happening in Italy. So Wi-Fi is mission critical. So please do consider, if you are a heavy user of the R190 series, please do call your RSM, get an eval of the R195W. We're getting great reviews of that technology. People are telling us it's about 30% better coverage than the previous best from Cambium, the R201. So it is the best coverage and capacity in our portfolio today, and it comes in at an MSRP of $55. So it is really a very good cost-effective solution to do some upgrades for those residential customers. The R201 series continues to be a strong push, particularly in North America, actually globally, but particularly in North America. The R201P is a strong product. Lots of usage. The reason people like the R201P is because of that power out, the ability to attach it to a Cambium subscriber module. So as we go forward, you're going to notice the R195P, again, the R195 series of products. It's 11AC radio. Thank you, Matt. Great timing. Appreciate that. So the R195 series of products will be in the 195W form factor, which we have already released, and the R195P, which will have an internal antenna, and it will have the same radio subsystem as the W series. So we expect about the same performance and high performance with the R195P. The nice thing about the R195P version, it will have everything you need. It'll have the dual radio 11AC. It will have the two RJ11 voice ports. It will have the power out to power a Cambium subscriber module. So it will have everything that you need. And so between those two, we think that's going to be the bulk of the service provider market, particularly in the United States, but even extending around the world. Very successful in EMEA and CALA also with this product portfolio. So please do talk to your RSMs about upgrading, getting those mission critical Wi-Fi networks upgraded. So let's jump into the enterprise portfolio. This is an emerging market for Cambium. It does seem to be not tailored towards the service providers, but let's talk about how you can leverage this technology within your service areas and where you operate and where you have your networks today, your broadband networks. You do have many different types of customers, obviously residential customers, but lots of small businesses. And that's where the portfolios from Cambium and our recent acquisition, Xeris, can help you to expand your business. So whether you're talking about hospitality and Wi-Fi hotspots, which have relatively low density requirements, all the way to small, medium enterprise, education markets, and large venues that might perhaps be within your realm, your scope of work. Cambium has the right scalable solution. So as the user and device density increases, and so split across the two different portfolios between cnPilot, managed by cnMaestro. That's the products that you're used to today. Continue to use your broadband, Ethernet, enterprise Wi-Fi, residential Wi-Fi, all from the same console. Or take a look at the Xeris portfolio, which is targeted towards high density, high scalable networks. Next slide, please. Yes, good question. I'm glad you brought it up. What about Wi-Fi 6? So Wi-Fi 6 is the new technology coming. It will be certified in November of what year? Wait for it. 2020. That's right. We all thought it was going to be November 2019, and expectations running high, but it's going to be the end of 2020. The good news is, the very good news is, we now have, not a year and a half ago but now have standards compliant radios that we can use to develop standards compliant Wi-Fi 6 products. So Cambium is using only standards compliant Wi-Fi chipsets, the 802.11ax standards compliant chips. The first radio we release, the first AP we release, will be a tri-radio. It has tri-radio capabilities with software-defined radios. That capability is unlocked when you use the Cambium Xeris XMS system to manage the network, that special software-defined radio capabilities. So we have software-defined radio, full 8x8 mode. This is a high-performance AP. It's at the top end of the performance curve. It has a full-time network and security scanner. So it's going to be scanning the network, looking for DFS channels, radar signals, lots of good stuff happening to improve the network assurance and network reliability. It has a 5 gig Ethernet, so we can connect it up to a high-speed Ethernet switch, which Cambium also will provide, so that your entire backbone, from the access point through the Ethernet switch layer, access layer, distribution layer, and then connect it up. Now think about this, folks. Connect that up to a 60 gigahertz Cambium broadband technology that Alan talked about, and all of a sudden you have an end-to-end, from broadband to Ethernet to Wi-Fi, multi-gigabit solution. So it's a nice story to start telling, a nice way to tie in the things that you do today with what you can do to expand your business. Next slide, please. A cost-effective, performance-based 11AX product will come out in the summertime. This is planned for June, and the cost-effective one will have 2x2 radios. So it's a dual radio. It's 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz, 2x2, so 2 streams. It has part-time network assurance and security scanner. Does not have the dedicated radio that the Big Brother has. It also can be managed. Oh, I forget, I did make this point on the last slide, but I'll make it here very clearly. When we go to Wi-Fi 6, we are developing converged hardware. That means one hardware access point that can be managed on either Cambium cnMaestro, like you do today with your broadband and Ethernet tech and residential, or Cambium Xeris XMS. So the same access point can have dual personalities and can support the special features that are available from cnMaestro, and the very special features that are available only from XMS. So a dual personality access point starting with Wi-Fi 6. So I hope you folks had a chance to attend a webinar that we had a few weeks ago that hosted by myself and Rad Sethuraman. And we talked about Wi-Fi 6, we talked about 5G and some of the plans, some of the things that you should be looking for. That's a very good webinar. If you haven't looked at it, please do get it, grab it online and review it there. Next slide.
Thanks, Darren. We'll move to John to talk a little bit about switching.
Thank you, Matt. Hey guys, how's everyone doing? So I'm going to give you a quick update on Cambium's Ethernet switching. I'm going to cover some of our enterprise switches and what's new there. I'm also going to give you a sneak peek on some of the WISP and tower switches that we have coming out. So this slide here, I packed a lot of information into one slide. So in this picture, the bottom 3 switches represent 4 new switches that we're coming out with now. They're orderable now, they'll be shipping in April. So those 4 new switches, they're 48 port switches, as well as our new multi-gig switch that Darren mentioned a minute ago. So a great portfolio, an awesome portfolio for the edge of your network. So the multi-gig switch, this multi-gig switch not only supports your standard 1 gig Ethernet, but also supports the new 802.3BZ increased bandwidth of 2.5 gig for your Wi-Fi 6 deployments. This portfolio, combined with the access points that Darren just talked about, combined with our management platforms, cnMaestro and XMS, really does give you a very comprehensive and complete solution for the edge of your enterprise network. A few highlights I want to go through with you guys. This might be a repeat for some of you, but I'll go through it quickly. So these switches, definitely enterprise grade, not only layer 2 switching, but layer 3 switching as well. Fully featured with QoS, filtering, ACLs, and security. Lots of good PoE features and capabilities. We support 802.3 AF, AT, and now BT, supporting up to 60 watts per port. And a little bit about the WISP switches, you'll see in a couple slides. Those switches will support up to 90 watts and also support the passive PoE as well. Now our uplink ports on these switches, a lot of switches you see out there will have 2 uplinks, maybe only 1 gig uplinks. The majority of these switches that we have here, 4 by 10 gig fiber uplinks. Okay, these switches are also fully managed, so fully manageable via CLI, a nice web GUI, SNMP, but also we are supported with our cnMaestro network management system and soon the XMS management system, giving you a true cloud-based management or as well as on-premise. The big feature, getting a lot of traction with our customers, a lot of traction with our analysts, is policy-based automation. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper on that on the next slide. But what these switches can do for you with policy-based automation is give you a true zero-touch experience, secure and simple. So also limited lifetime warranty on these switches, translates to 5 years, best-in-class support. Now all these features that I've mentioned and the base price of the switch really does give you a very competitive TCO. Okay, double clicking on policy-based automation. So simple, secure, and economical. So from a simple point of view, what it does for you is gives you a true zero-touch experience. Now that's not only a zero-touch for the initial deployment of your switches, but also zero-touch for all your ongoing daily operations. So device adds, moves, and changes. Also making it very simple, every port is created equally with PBA. You can plug any device into any port of any switch, and the switch and the port will be automatically provisioned based on the device type that was plugged in. Okay, security. So when a device connects to our switches, we automatically gather as much information as we can about that device, and we profile that device. We can use these profiles to match one of the PBA policies that has been created by the user. Once matching a policy, we will automatically segment that device into the correct subnet or VLAN for that device, preventing any accidental occurrences of a device being put onto the wrong network or wrong VLAN. So automated policy enforcement across all the switches. Now, when you remove devices, equally important, the configuration associated with that device is cleaned up. It keeps your configuration clean, easy to maintain, as well as a little bit of added security. You do not leave these dangling configurations laying around for malicious devices to plug in and access unwanted VLANs or networks. So affordability. So, you know, you get all this stuff for free. With this automation, with PBA, it really does, eliminate the need for highly skilled users to connect devices. So when you do connect a new device, you don't need someone to go into the switch and manually configure it. So it saves time and energy there. The main thing is that it eliminates the error-prone and time-consuming manual configuration. There is a stat out there that says 80% of network outages are due to some type of misconfiguration. Okay, next slide. All right, now I'm going to give you a sneak peek on our WISP switches or tower switches. We had our prototypes available. We're going to show them at the show, but at the next upcoming show, we will show them off to you guys. So we have 3 switches coming out. We have an 8-port configuration, a 16-port configuration, and a 24-port configuration. So when I say 8, 16, and 24, I'm talking about the access ports. These are 1 gig access ports. Now, something unique on the bottom switch, that's our 24-port switch. 16 of the ports are your standard 1 gig RJ45 ports, and 8 of the ports are 1 gig fiber ports, so SFP ports. Now, all 3 of these models have also 4 10 gig uplink ports. So when I say 8 ports, that's just the access ports. It's actually a 12-port switch. Excuse me. Okay, so Cambium Sync. Yes, Cambium Sync is supported on every one of these RJ45 copper ports. And then PoE capability. So this is where we differ quite a bit from our enterprise switches. So we will support the standard 802.3 AF-AT-BT, but we will also support 4-pair high power PoE up to 90 watts. And we support that on half the ports. So like on the 16-port configuration, we can support 8 ports up to 90 watts per port. So we can support 8 Medusas plugging into that 16-port switch. On the 24-port switch, half of those 16 RJ45 ports, same thing, so up to 8 Medusas. Now we also support low voltage passive PoE as well for some of the other Cambium devices and third-party devices. So the other half of the ports will support those low voltage passive PoE. Now you'll notice on the layout on these pictures, everything is available on the front of these switches. So these power supplies, they all use removable power supplies, and you plug them in from the front of the switch. A little bit, something to catch your eye here, the second switch, the 16-port switch, it can take up to 2 of these removable power supplies. So you don't need to, but if you want redundancy for your power supplies, you can use 2. So if one fails, no problem, the switch continues to run. And that is
very cool stuff, John. And we're excited. I'm excited personally on the PMP side to get these tower switches out the door. Of course, the questions coming in are when? When will we have these?
Why would anyone ask that question? We have prototypes in-house, and they're coming up really, really well. We were gonna show them at the show this week, but anyway, we have the prototypes in-house. They're working. So we're just going through the normal development, hardware, software. Let's see what else. So our current date that we're targeting is Q4, looking pretty good for that. So yeah, so Q4 of this year, 2020, awesome, is our target.
All right, thanks, John. I'm gonna just make a quick housekeeping note. I know we're already at 9:37 Central Time, and we've exhausted the allotted time we had, but we're gonna continue going. And we have Maestro to cover, and then I'll say a couple words on 5G, but we've been answering questions as we go, so maybe we won't need quite as much time for Q&A at the end, but we're gonna continue until we've exhausted all the questions, I hope. And so let's keep going and press on, and thank you, everyone. I wanna thank everyone for staying on. It looks like 97% of everybody who joined has stayed on and is bearing with us. Again, exciting new stuff, so I'm glad everyone's able to do that. We wouldn't have been able to do this had we been at the show, but now we are, so let's press on. Azif, CN Maestro.
Thank you, Matt. Good morning, everyone. Let me start with what CN Maestro and the capabilities, then I'll move to what is new in CN Maestro. CN Maestro is the management platform for managing Cambium devices. It is developed and designed to manage fixed wireless devices like long distance, broadband devices, and industrial IoT and home Wi-Fi or enterprise Wi-Fi devices and CN Matrix switches in a single pane of glass. CN Maestro is supported both on premises and in cloud. You can get your own CN Maestro Yeah, Matt, previous slide, please. Yeah, you can get your own cnMaestro account by following two simple steps. Step one, you need to create your user account on support.cambiumnetworks.com. This will give you access to the knowledge base and you can participate on Cambium community as well. Step two, you can create an account in cambiumnetworks.com. This will automatically create a cnMaestro cloud instance for our organization so that you can log in to your cnMaestro account and start managing your Cambium devices. That's a simple way we offer our customers for having a cloud management platform. Next slide, please. cnMaestro has the unified dashboard, which will show you the end-to-end network topology of your organization, which comes with features like zero-touch provisioning, managed service provider, dashboard, API, and troubleshooting. In case of zero-touch provisioning, devices can be pre-adopted, pre-configured, and pre-placed to a particular network or a site or a tower based on your requirement in cnMaestro. Once a device gets internet access, device will automatically discover to your own cnMaestro cloud instance and get it connected. From there on, you can manage your device from your own cloud instance. MSP feature gives an easy and simple way to create branded service pages for your tenants with their own logos and images. When tenant logs into the cnMaestro, he'll be able to see only tenant devices and the configurations. But an MSP admin logs into the cnMaestro, he can overall see all the tenants and all of their configurations. In 2.3 version of cnMaestro comes with feature-rich NBA APIs and Swagger API documentation, which gives you the complete control of navigating and testing of API before actually scripting your requirements. cnMaestro gives a context-based dashboard on different levels of network topology with different KPIs and different troubleshooting options. Next slide, please, Matt. This is the look and feel you get when an MSP admin logs into the cnMaestro account. In a single pane of glass, the admin can see the system dashboard or drill down to the tree for getting context-based dashboard of each and every tenant in his account. In this example, Cambium 01 MSP is a MSP admin. He is managing a couple of tenants like Cal customer. In case of Cal customer, he has two networks, one is Ashburton and in San Jose. In Ashburton, he has a tower. Under the tower, he has an access point and access point. There are 3 SMs connected to the access points. Under the SMs, there are an E700 or an E500 which can power off the SM and give the end user Wi-Fi access. This is a dashboard. An MSP admin can see it. Next slide, please, Matt. This is an example of a branded service page for a tenant when he logs into cnMaestro with their own customized logos and images. This is very simple to create from the cnMaestro MSP management view. Next slide, please, Matt. cnMaestro 2.3 comes with webhook integration for streaming the alarms to web services like Slack, Twilio, Zapier, Datadog, or PagerDuty, or any other streaming service. Complete list of RESTful APIs available via the Swagger documentation. This will make easy for you to consume before scripting it. Next slide. Yeah, in summary, I would like to leave you with the thought of cnMaestro as a management platform for managing the Cambium P2P, PMP, ePMP, cnMatrix, and cnPilot devices.
Thanks very much, Azif. I appreciate the update on Maestro. I'm going to shift a little bit to kind of what we're thinking about in terms of 5G and how we're going to approach that technology wave, the next technology wave. So, and this will wrap things up. I'll be quick. It's just a kind of a sneak preview as to what we're thinking and how we're thinking about it, and then we'll go to strict Q&A and try and get all your questions answered. So what is 5G? Everyone talks about 5G. 5G is the headline of every major trade show for the last several years, right? Well, finally, 5G IMT 2020 is published, standards are released. We're calling it LTE or 3GPP Advanced Release 15, whatever it's called, million names for it, right? But what does it mean? It means three major things: enhanced mobile broadband, ultra reliable and low latency communications, and massive machine type communications. Those are the big three. Whenever you see the 5G triangle, those are the ends of the triangle. And how do we get there, or what helps us get there? Is this new air interface, what they're calling 5G NR or 5G new radio. A lot of different components go into making this new air interface and new architecture. It allows us to do things that we weren't able to do before. It's really kind of neat, and it provides the ability to get to a lot of these end goals, the ultra reliable, low latency, massive machine type, and especially for us, enhanced mobile or fixed broadband type of communications. So that's where we're headed. Again, release 15 was just approved a couple of years ago, and the standards have been published. And what we're trying to do is kind of think about the future and how do we future-proof things in our portfolio, and how do we move forward. So we're going to adopt the 5G NR air interface, but be a software-defined radio. So we can allow us to utilize 5G chipsets when they become available. There really isn't any available yet, but they're coming. We know they're coming. So we will be able to adopt those when they get here. But really, we're all about future-proofing the portfolio and strategically working this into our portfolio as we move forward in the future. Our first entree into this area will be in the 28 gigahertz band. And when I say 28, I mean 24 to 29, basically. Utilizing any of these bands that are in existence today. 26 and 28 most common, 28 is most common in the US. That's licensed, of course, but it does provide quite a bit of frequency to play with. And you can get a lot of bandwidth, and it's a little bit better propagation than say 60 or 70 or 80 gig where it's limited in range. With 28 gig, you can go a little bit further and have kind of a more usable footprint for these kind of devices. So that's where we're headed with our first entree into 5G. We are optimizing it for fixed. It is not a mobile product being adapted to fixed. Again, we are a fixed wireless company, and we're building products as such. So we're not supporting mobility. We're not intending to support handoffs. And again, we're going to have this simplification of architecture in mind. But we'll adapt the multi-user MIMO capabilities that we've developed on cnMedusa into this platform. So we're getting all the benefits of the high capacity, high spectral efficiency products, but using 5G NR architecture. Very excited about this. It's going to provide a solution that we haven't had in the portfolio yet, a multi-point solution, high capacity multi-point solution without a core, without the need for very expensive ongoing costs that come with some of the 5G LTE style carriers. Again, optimizing this for long range. And when we say long range in this band, in this frequency, we're talking about 3 to 5 kilometers. We can get up to 10 in a dry situation with the high gain antennas that we're developing. But of course, it depends a little bit on the rain and rain region that you're in. For region K, we do, I think 3 kilometers is a pretty safe bet, 3 to 5 kilometers or a couple of miles. It is optimized for line of sight, meaning we have a high gain dish antenna with a very narrow beam, and we're getting as high a gain as we can because we know that the range is important. We are incorporating some beam steering capability even on the subscriber side to allow easier installation, because when you get to these pencil beam widths at these high frequencies, very small antennas, very small beams, it becomes pretty difficult to align. The AP beam, it adds a little complexity if you try to do both elevation and azimuth, and so it doesn't really help with performance. So we're only doing beam steer in the azimuth for the AP side. And we're, again, designing the CPE to operate with high throughput in line of sight conditions. So little teaser on the 28 gig. There'll be more information certainly at WISPApalooza in the fall. A launch for this product is expected at the end of the year. And we'll have, again, more information, more webinars, more stuff. I just wanted to kind of tease you with where we're headed. And if you do have access or have licenses for 28 gig, we'd be very interested in talking to you over the next several days, couple of weeks, and get more information from you on what you're looking for in a product for this band. And we would love to talk to you about that and some opportunities there. So again, I'm just wrapping things up here. 28 gig will be our first 5G NR based platform, but obviously won't be the last. We are really looking at combining all the advances in the latest standards, introducing these millimeter wave products and Wi-Fi 6 products to get up on the latest standards and make really gigabit to the home is what we're looking for. End-to-end gigabit to the home, from the backhaul, from the point of presence, all the way into the home. And Cambium is really ready to help you guys in this, and especially in this time of need, but always grow into the future. That's my wrap up. And not right now, I'd like to open it up for Q&A. I will refer back to the question box. We've been answering as we go along, which is why we're going long. I think we certainly have a lot of questions in here, and I think I would allow, or go ahead, any of the organizers, any of the speakers that have spoken, feel free to come off mute if you see something that you'd like to answer. And we'll go and take turns in that fashion until we've exhausted all the questions that have been entered. And then we'll wrap it up. And I do want to point out before we begin that there are several follow-on WISPAmerica type activities that Cambium is hosting. We are doing, I mentioned a webinar for CBRS tomorrow morning, 8:30. Go to our website and check out the under resources, webinars, and under resources events. There's all kinds of stuff there. And you can sign up for that CBRS webinar tomorrow morning, 8:30. There's also a WISP promotion webinar specifically for ePMP at 11 a.m. Also tomorrow. And so, yeah, feel free to go sign up for those. So let's start tackling some of these questions. Anyone want to jump in, feel free. I do see one about, hey, what about TV white space? Right now, we are not pursuing a product in TV white space. The rules, while Microsoft and Airband and the initiatives going on there are trying to make things more friendly to the WISP operator, there is no real incentive for us as a manufacturer yet to get into that band. We don't feel like you're going to have a viable product at a reasonable cost to build at that point, at this point in the future. So we always have that. We're always keeping an eye on what bands are available, what frequencies. We unfortunately can't do everything, and we have to pick and choose where we put our research dollars. We're as beholden to the shareholders as anyone, any company. So we have to pick and choose. So we're not at this point pursuing any TV white space products. So anyone else, feel free to jump in and start answering questions. Nobody? I'll try and
Hey,
take.
Matt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, everybody. This is John on the cMatrix switches. So I got the same question asked about 10 different times. Do we support DC power supplies? The answer is yes. So on those WISP switches and one of our 48-port enterprise switches, we use these removable power supplies, CRPS units. We are going to carry 6 different options, 3 AC options and 3 DC options. So of the 3, they're just different sizes. So you can get anywhere from 500 watts of PoE output power all the way up to 1,000 watts of PoE output power. So the answer is yes, we do support DC power supplies.
Thanks, John.
Sure.
All right. As I said, I think we've been answering questions as we go along, so I don't think there's a whole lot of open ones out there. And there are most of the questions that have been answered in the chat. We might try and figure out a way to post those into the forum as well, so folks can see that if that's possible. So I thought I mentioned the release date for 28 gig is at end of the year. So I'll answer that one again. There's a few more on switches. Is there an outdoor version of the switch coming?
Yes, I think I answered that one. There is an outdoor switch coming. This is kind of a sneak peek. We do have protos in-house. It's an IP67 switch, supports PUE of 802.3, AF, AT, BT, up to 60 watts. It also supports a low voltage passive PUE. That's a big one for us. Does not support Cambium sync, not in this version anyway. And in this first version, it uses a internal AC power supply, kind of nice, but we definitely want to do a DC version as well.
And do we have the temperature range on that switch, on the WISP switch or tower switches?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. We're just doing those tests now, and the temperature ranges are coming back very, very nicely, better than expected. So, we're going to have a nice wide temperature range when we publish that data.
All right. I don't see any more questions rolling in. I think we've got them all. And if we didn't answer your question, feel free. Again, we'll post this on the forum, and we will be happy to answer questions on the forum and continue the discussion there. And again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining. I'd like to thank the Cambium team for supporting. We got slides to me earlier than usual, which was awesome. And we were able to go a little longer, which was also awesome. And thank you all for joining. I appreciate it. And again, we'll post this to the forum and continue the discussion there. Thanks everyone for joining Animal Farm 2020.